Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Courtney and I am so glad you're here. If you're new here, this is my second channel where I discuss true crime cases, and if you are not new here, thank you so much for deciding to come back and spend some more time with me. I'm just going to jump right into it. Today's case is wild. It is something that while I was reading it, I was not expecting it. It's a very twist and turns kind of case that you definitely are not going to be expecting this outcome. Before we start, make sure you give my video a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you will not miss anything. So I'm going to start off this case by reading just a short transcript from the 911 call. We have an intruder in the house next door. The intruder was in the bedroom with a hammer. The woman who lives there thinks she may have strangled him. He was down when she left. The operator says, "Can you put her on the phone? She's bleeding. Does she need an ambulance?" "No, she's a nurse." She says, "Call an ambulance for the guy. He may be dead." And this was a Portland 911 call made on September 6, 2006. Our main focus of this case is a woman named Susan Kuhnhausen, I believe is how you say the last name. Susan had not really witnessed a happy marriage growing up. Her father was an Air Force cook and her mother was a stay-at-home mom, and Susan's parents separated when Susan was in second grade, and her childhood was very chaotic. She moved from place to place. She moved from Colorado to Arizona to California to Nevada. She was going in between schools and homes and bouncing back and forth with her parents. Very chaotic and stressful childhood. Susan said in a quote, "My parents loved me, but they couldn't teach me how to have a successful marriage any more than they could teach me how to fly." Later in life, Susan became an LPN and then later becoming an RN, and she moved to Oregon in the early 1980s. She first settled in Coos Bay, and then later she settled down in Portland. Susan is a very outgoing, bubbly, fun type of person. Just sounds like somebody that I would love to hang out with and be around. She has these what's said to be loud laughs. Just a very sweet and silly and also caring and helpful woman. In 1988, Susan's mother paid for a personal ad to be put in the newspaper, and this was the kind of ad where it's kind of what would have been Tinder, I guess, in today's world, but back in the 80s, you put an ad into the newspaper and you waited for somebody to respond. Just to show how silly and funny Susan really is, this is her ad. "Single, white, female, 33, overweight but not over life, seeks single man who wants more out of a relationship than just slender." So soon after posting the ad in the newspaper, a man by the name of Michael Kuhnhausen responded to the ad. The very first day Susan and Michael spoke on the phone was January 30th, 1988, and Susan had this little kitten-themed diary that she would write in, and she put a little smiley face with a red pen on that day. So it made her really happy, and Susan actually said that they spoke on the phone approximately 100 hours is what Susan was estimating before they met for the first time. So Mike just seemed to make her really happy. She said he had a very nice voice and she was impressed that he wanted to talk about deeper things in life. So now a little bit about Mike Kuhnhausen. He was born in Portland and adopted as a newborn in 1948 by a couple in their 30s. He had told Susan that he saw combat in Vietnam, but Susan kind of doubts that these days. His military records listed him as a switchboard operator. So their first real date, aside from just talking on the phone constantly it seemed, was in February of 1988, and they met at Crystal Springs Garden, which is next to Reed College. I don't know anything about Oregon, but this sounds really nice. They fed the ducks, and Mike was said to have tossed unsalted peanuts to the squirrels. So just such a pure, genuine, sweet first date. They enjoyed each other's company so much that within the year, they would be driving to Reno to elope. Within a few years of their wedding, Mike got a new job as a janitorial supervisor for Oregon Entertainment, which was a sister company of Fantasy Adult Video. Sadly, Susan says that it wasn't very long after they got married. There was no more hiking. There was no more going out and doing anything fun. Mike slowly started to reveal in the early years of their marriage that he's never really been happy, and his life philosophy was, quote, "Life is a shit sandwich, and every day you take another bite until you die." So it sounds like she didn't know that he was a very dark, negative, unhappy person, and she's this bright, bubbly, outgoing person who just wants to go out and have fun. The couple never had any children, and Susan was totally fine with that, but Mike would always be on Susan's hind end about plans that she made. Whenever she would go out, he was always watching her spending, and then anytime that she would make any minor purchase, he always had something negative to say about it. 17 years into their marriage, Susan had just had it up to here with Mike. She was done. She said, quote, "I cared about him, but I didn't want to live with him anymore." She said that she just wanted to be happy again. In September of 2005, Susan kicked Mike out of the house and he moved into his father's home, but Susan never changed the alarm code on their house, so Mike still knew the alarm code, which was their wedding date. On the evening of Wednesday, September 6, 2006, leaving her shift as a registered nurse in the emergency department at Providence Portland Medical Center, and she headed to a hair appointment that I'm sure she more than deserved after being on her feet all day working as a registered nurse in an emergency department. So she ends her shift, she's going to go get her hair done and just unwind and relax. Once the hair appointment was over with and she was feeling fantastic, she went back home. She enters the mudroom of her house and she sees a note on the microwave that was from her husband, Mike. They never actually got the divorce, they just separated. So it's from her husband, Mike, and it reads, quote, "Sue, haven't been sleeping, had to get away, went to the beach. Love, me." He also said that he would see her on Friday or Saturday. He just needed some time away, just probably to think, just some time alone. So Susan unlocks the door to her kitchen and she hears the beeping of her alarm system going off. So she puts the alarm code in, shuts the beeping down, and she walked through the house to the front door and then she went back outside. It was a beautiful day. It was clear. It was warm. And about 6:37 in the evening, she stood outside for a minute and she was flipping through the mail that she had gotten. She came back inside and she went to her bedroom and she noticed how dark it was and she was thinking, man, did I forget to open the curtains this morning? It shouldn't be this dark in here. Soon a man popped out from behind Susan's bedroom door and began attacking her with a hammer. The first hit landed on Susan's left temple. Completely taken by surprise, she did not expect this. She had no idea anybody was in her house. But Susan had been trained in self-defense at work because, you know, I'm assuming, I don't know, but I'm assuming you work as an ER nurse. There's probably a lot of people that might get a little out of control, and it's just for your own safety to know self-defense. So her adrenaline kicks in and she reacts and she tackles this man, pushes him against the wall, and then she hears the only thing that she would get out of this guy the entire time, and he says, "You're strong." Hell yeah, she is. It was at this moment that Susan realized, oh my god, this guy's here to kill me. Her adrenaline was set to go into complete overdrive. She was able to wrestle the hammer away from this guy, and she hit him 3 or 4 times in the head with it. She was screaming at him, demanding to know, who sent you here? Tell me who sent you here. Who are you? Why are you in my house? Of course, the guy did not respond, and he was able to wrestle the hammer back away from Susan. The only thing that was going through Susan's mind was that she needed to get that hammer back away from that guy. So Susan was able to grab this man by the throat and she was squeezing, and she noticed that his face turned purple and then it turned blue, and she panicked. You know, she's a nurse. She's supposed to save lives, not take them. So she releases, she gets off this guy, and she just decides she's going to try to bolt out of the house. Well, this guy catches her in the hallway, gets her on the ground, and starts punching her in the face. Somehow she managed to flip him and get him down on the floor, and she did something very, very smart. She bit this man as hard as she possibly could to, if this man was to kill her, then those bite marks would be able to connect him to her murder. So if you don't take anything else from this case, please, God forbid anything ever happens to you where you are attacked, you bite, you scratch, you pull, you get this person's DNA under your fingernails, you bite, you leave your bite marks on them to be connected. So that was very, very smart. Susan again manages to get on top of this guy, and she puts him in a chokehold with her left arm. And this is how badass this woman is. While she's got him in a chokehold, she screams at him, quote, "Tell me who you are and I will call you an effing ambulance." Of course, he did not respond. He didn't say anything about who he was, why he was there. All he was doing was grunting and growling and trying to fight against Susan. So she tightens her grip. Eventually, the man stops moving. So she books it out of the house to a neighbor's house and calls 911, which was the little bit of a transcript that I read you in the beginning. That night, Portland police found the body of Edward Haffey in Susan's home. They also found this man's backpack, which contained yellow rubber gloves, a bottle of Hershey's chocolate syrup, and some diabetes pills. They also found this man's daily planner, and on the date of September 4th, it said, quote, "Call Mike," with Michael Kuhnhausen's phone number. The police were also very quickly able to find out that this man that attacked Susan and Susan's husband, Michael, worked together at the adult video store. Later that night, Susan also found out that she had indeed killed this man. And this goes to really show you what kind of person Susan is. She said, quote, "I immediately began to think about his family. Everybody has somebody who loves them. Children, a wife, a mother, a dad. The worst of this is not that somebody tried to kill me, but that I had to kill someone else to survive. But I have no shame because I did not choose this death for him. I chose my life. I chose life." It took about a week after the attempted murder on Susan that police were able to find Michael Kuhnhausen hiding in Sunnyside, Oregon. And the following day, Susan filed for divorce. Yeah, no shit. To be exact, it was at 10 a.m. on September 13th that the police were able to catch up with Michael Kuhnhausen at Sunnyside Medical Center. He claimed to be checking himself in, and he said, quote, "I have nothing to live for anymore." They put him on an involuntary psychiatric hold, and 11 hours later, officers put him under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder. During Edward Haffey's autopsy, which remember is the man that tried to kill Susan, it showed a near lethal dose of cocaine in his system at the time that he was attacking Susan. And court records on this man revealed a lot. On February 28th of 1991, Edward Haffey arranged the murder of his ex-girlfriend, 39-year-old Georgia Lee Dutton. Her decomposed body was later found in a river. Edward Haffey pleaded guilty to conspiracy to commit murder on March 14th of 1994, and he spent the next 9 years in Eastern Oregon Correctional Institution. And he was released on November 3rd of 2003. After Edward Haffey got out of prison, he moved to Portland and he needed a job. In July of 2004, Mike Kuhnhausen hired Edward Haffey in his adult video store to clean the floors. So why did Michael Kuhnhausen hire this man to kill his own wife? Weeks earlier, Michael Kuhnhausen had lost his job. He had no place to live. He had no money. Susan named her brother as a beneficiary of her life insurance policy, and Mike knew this. But Susan and Michael had paid off their home, which was worth about $300,000, and if Susan were to pass away, Michael would get this home. So there's a motive right there. Pretty shitty motive, but still a motive. After Mike was arrested, detectives had employment records to prove that Michael Kuhnhausen and Edward Haffey knew each other. But of course, Michael Kuhnhausen denied any knowledge of this man. But then shortly, of course, Mike's story changed and he said, quote, "I didn't do it. Just because I know the guy doesn't mean I did anything." There were no signs of forced entry into Susan's home, but security records do show that someone had disabled the alarm while Susan was at work. Michael says that was him when he stopped by to leave the note telling Susan that he was going to the beach. So he says that he was the one that disabled the alarm, but he denies letting Edward Haffey into the home. On September 18th, a former cellmate of Edward Haffey's contacted the police and said that Edward Haffey had asked him to join in on this burglary and said it was an insurance scam. So this former cellmate and Edward Haffey set out to meet a guy at Southeast 82nd Avenue and Division Street. And it turns out the guy they were going to meet was Michael Kuhnhausen. Mike told this guy that he would pay him $5,000 if he helped Edward Haffey kill his wife, and this guy said hell no. Then on November 17th, another witness told police that he had driven Edward Haffey to meet some bald man in the parking lot of an Applebee's near Interstate 205. And then days later, he saw a picture of this man after Susan's attack and realized that it was Michael Kuhnhausen. Prosecutor on this case, Brian Davidson, said, quote, he could deny it all he wanted, but the weight of the evidence was overwhelming. And on August 30th, 2007, Mike Kuhnhausen pleaded guilty to soliciting Susan's murder. He was sentenced to 10 years in prison, and he was going to be released, but 3 months before he was supposed to be released, Michael Kuhnhausen died in prison of bone cancer. That is all I have for you guys this week. This was wild. Susan, who now goes by Susan Walters, looks like this sweet, just like neighbor who would bring you cookies or something. I don't know, but she's a badass. Her husband hired a hitman and she killed him. Like, What? Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Thank you so much for being here with me. And I hope to see you back next Tuesday for another episode. Video. I hope to see you next week. Bye!